Good morning and welcome to IoT North Breakfast Club. I'm Paul Wealls, founder of IoT North, and it's great to have you on board here. What is IoT North? We're a community of IoT. We help you understand what it is, how to use it, and how it's really going to influence the future. These shows are talking about anything and everything. We've talked about psychology, we've talked about business, and today we're going to talk about art. And I'm going to bring in our guests, Shaun, Allan, and Dr. Shaun Clark. Good morning, guys.
Morning, Paul. Morning, everyone. Morning, Shaun.
Morning.
So, Shaun, Allan, would you like to introduce yourself? This is going to get confusing with the two Shauns, by the way, I'm sure. But Shaun, Allan, would you like to introduce yourself, buddy?
Sure, no problem. Hi, I'm Shaun Allan, founder and CEO of Vector 76, but more recently taken on the role of CTO at XR Therapeutics, which I'll explain a little bit about maybe later on. Been in the VR space, now XR we term it as, for around about 12 years now. That's what I do, work in all the various realities, and based in and around normally Proto or the Northern Design Centre in Gateshead.
Excellent. Looking forward to hearing your news on your new progression with the CTO role. Congratulations on that, buddy. Dr. Shaun Clark, good morning. How are you, sir?
Morning. Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Yeah, so my name's Shaun Clark. I describe myself as an artist, curator, and researcher. I'm based in Leicester, live up the road in Loughborough, and I've been working in the intersection of art and technology for probably 25 years or so, maybe almost 30 years. And my particular interest is using modern communication technology to enable artworks to communicate with each other. And this is something we'll talk about in a bit more detail. But of course, that has brought me into Internet of Things. And at present, I'm using a variety of technologies to enable my multimedia artworks to share data. That can be information about interactions, the presence of viewers, and so on. So I'm looking forward to sharing some of that with you.
Awesome. Gentlemen, it's absolutely brilliant to have you both online. So let's jump into the questions. How can art help the transition of technology adoption? Dr. Shaun Clark, over to you first. How do you see that?
Well, there's a sort of adage within the sort of digital art community that I'm part of, which really identifies that artists are typically amongst the first to make use of any new technology. And in the past, that's been photography, filmmaking, multimedia technologies in the form of art installations. And I think what it is that art gives us the opportunity to do what we want rather than necessarily to solve a real world problem. So as artists, when a new technology comes along, what you're typically thinking about is how can I create something interesting, challenging? How can I do something novel with this technology rather than solve a specific problem? And that does give us flexibility to really explore the technology in depth. And so you'll see at the moment, a lot of artists are active in AI, XR, VR technology, and in myself in Internet of Things technology as well. So we're looking at how this technology can be used to create artworks, but also looking at the social issues and experimenting with it and so on.
Yeah, I mean, it's also like, as you say that with the use of it, but also, when you think about books and how they influence film and stuff like Minority Report really stood out to me on, if you look at about the amount of technology that's being used in that has actually evolved to being a reality to today. Shaun, Allan, your thoughts?
Hello. Couldn't agree more with what Shaun had to say there. When I think about technology, obviously, I'm quite literally immersed in the whole XR thing, but I very much come from a design background. I wouldn't quite describe myself as an artist, but in the classic sense. But I've always kind of seized on, new technologies, whether that be to do with graphics, animation, virtual reality, maybe music as well to a degree. But I was just thinking about it last night prior to this talk. When we're talking about technology, and the default is, we're kind of maybe talking about, headsets and AI and, machine learning and all that sort of stuff. But if you look back in time, equally the technology of new types of paints and things like that to the classic impressionists and various other people, that was just as valid a new technology as any of the electronic stuff we use these days. And again, agreeing with Shaun, it's people who do have an artistic bent at whatever level do tend to kind of dive in and just try and get those ideas out of their heads and onto either canvas or in these days into an environment.
Yeah. I mean, it's there was some comments when I announced this live stream that I found really interesting. It was one of the best engagements we've done for a post, to be fair. And people were talking about, well, what about the design of car and stuff like that? Well, is design art? Well, personally, I think it is. I do think cars are art. Most of them, let's be honest, a lot of them are all up the freaking same now. But there is a part of somebody in that design, and in a lot of designs of cars, especially when it's the original design of it as well, you can see that, and it really inspires, and the adoption of the technology influences the design as well. Just got a really interesting comment here. Thanks for this. As artists, we are at risk of becoming the underpaid R&D and marketing department of tech and science. Not meant as an aggressive question, it's a growing concern in the artists, and that's very interesting. Shaun, Allan, what's your thoughts on that?
I'm trying to not take that as an aggressive question. Sorry for whoever sent that. Yeah, I mean, I don't entirely agree with that. Whilst there are a lot of artists who, as I say, use the phrase dive in, get involved in technology. As a small SME in the Northeast with Vector 76, we've always went to great pains to get to expose artists and creatives to this new technology when it just wasn't on their roadmap. So we didn't need anyone to do our R&D. If that answers the question.
Yeah. Dr. Clark, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think there's a degree of validity to the point in that often artists are underpaid, certainly. And I think it's important that artists are paid. So whenever I run events, I try to support the artists as much as I can. I think the one problem is we're in a sort of lucky situation, really, as artists, in that we generally don't have an external client to work to. And in many ways, that's the difference between art and design. An artist is free to do what they want to do, whereas a designer is typically designing for a client. And so we're in that lucky position. I'm very happy that I have the opportunity to do the things I want to do, even if at times I might feel underpaid. So, it's getting that balance right between having that freedom to create and to do exciting things with technology. And then at times feeling maybe, other people might earn a bit more. I'd like to just go back to that point that Shaun made, really, about technology, and even paint is technology. Everything, of course, is technology. A pencil, a paintbrush, as you're saying. And even that point about acrylic paint is really only 60, 70 years old. And acrylic paint is a very exciting technology for a painter. It gives a wider variety of colours, and it can be used in different environments and so on. And actually, it's roughly the same age as digital art. Digital art, or computer art, maybe, really began in the 50s, almost at the beginning of the computer revolution. So we think of really maybe the 50s as being the first year or the first decade where computers started to enter everyday life, rather than being something that was maybe in sort of military and university departments. And so actually computer art and digital art is quite an established field. And one thing I often think is that people maybe don't understand that and don't recognize it, that it's not just about the latest newfangled technology. If you want to understand computer art, look at the history. And I do have a project called the Computer Arts Archive, computer-arts-archive.com, which is a developing project looking at early computer art. And one of the projects I have is something called the Micro Arts Archive. And this is looking at computer art that was made in the 80s, and in particular on ZX Spectrums and BBC micros. Now, I use a lot of microcontrollers in my work. My microcontrollers are more powerful than those computers. However, the artists were doing creative things, and what we're doing in this little collection, which will become an exhibition, is trying to demonstrate that to the sort of new generation, that older technologies can create interesting art. It's not always about the latest technology.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
do you know what? That's really interesting. So I was very privileged as a kid growing up in the early '80s and such like. My dad was in IT. Funny enough, IT manager for British shipbuilders on the quayside, and we always had a computer in the home. And one of the first things I did that he showed me was to create a repetitive pattern. Which then we printed off. And you remember you used to have to cover your books at school so they didn't get damaged and stuff like that. So I used the prints for that. That was one of the first things I ever did on a computer. Well, the first thing was the good old Go-To-20 with the scrolling words across the screen in good old BASIC. And that sounds like I'm a developer. Totally not. Helen, thanks for your feedback on DS's comment. I see the other side too, DS. The fact that the artists are even more valuable in the field of tech in helping to make the products and services engaging, inspiring, and accessible to the public. Great feedback. Thanks, Helen. Sorry. So let's jump into the next question. So, Sean, you touched on Dr. Clark. You touched on a little bit there on some of the projects that you're doing. Do you want to tell us about the Art-AI one?
The Art AI Festival. That's right.
Yeah.
So that is an event that's happening in Leicester, but of course everything is online these days, so it's not just in Leicester. It's organised by Professor Tracy Harwood at De Montfort University, and it's now in its third year. And it's a festival. Originally, it was like a 2-week, 1-month festival in a traditional sense, and it's had 2 in those formats. This year, because of the changes with being online, it's actually running over a long period of time, sort of best part of 9 months or more. And it's very much, as we were discussing earlier, looking at a technology and saying, how can artists engage with this to help us understand it? And of course, one of the technologies of the day is artificial intelligence, AI. So the Art AI Festival has a bunch of artworks, talks, opportunities to get involved in things based around AI and different AI technologies and how artists are engaging with them.
Excellent. This is something I find really, really intriguing. I did watch you shared a video a couple of days ago that I found very interesting to watch. It was a very interesting platform for this. But this is something that I'm working on a project, and I'm looking forward to announce in the not too distant future, which is, again, as you say, with the situation that we have, prolonging the engagement with scenarios like this and hacks and stuff actually enables people that bit of time to digest and deliver, and bit of personal promotion with the hashtag 2020 Vision hack that I did with Intel and AD-Link recently, which just wrapped up, and congratulations to Sergio for winning that. The quality, because we gave them that time, and we also gave them the tools as well, the Viz AI Developer Kit. We gave them the time to digest, plan, and deliver. That the quality on the final submissions was phenomenal. And interestingly, on this conversation about technology and art, we had one guy. So it was using vision, computer vision for object detection and such like in industrial spaces. One guy went in a total different direction to what we expected, using Unreal gaming engine. And basically building up scenarios for the computer vision to then recognize when risks were going to happen, and when risks happened, like somebody got knocked over and stuff like that. It's like, wow, I can't get into the environment, so I'll just make it. It was absolutely fantastic, really, really, it started to get to you think, to start to put those connections together. That that visualization is just phenomenal in getting people's brains thinking. And one of the things I'm quite passionate about personally, and it's part of a project that I can't announce, but I will announce soon, is about sentiment and taking people on journeys. We've done it with music and with art, with film, and sometimes art can do that as you walk around a gallery and such like. But how we can use technology to take people on that journey by combining multiple platforms is something I'm really interested in. So hopefully my big blue chip friends and I will be announcing that one very, very soon. Mr. Allan, tell us about your new project.
Right. Okay. Do you mean my new role at
CTO?
XRT?
Yeah.
All right. I mean, it's not directly, to do with art or anything like that.
No, no.
What we're doing at XRT is, we're using virtual reality to treat youngsters and young adults with various levels of autism. So this is based on, absolute solid research from Dr. Jeremy Parr along at Newcastle University. So it's basically a startup spin out from Newcastle Uni. And I got approached a couple of years ago now with the potential for working with the company and helping them. Sorry to use the word, but helping them commercialize what they're doing. Which is what we're doing with XRT. So there's myself, Penny Days joining from Sunderland Software City, Billy Webber is joining XRT as CEO. It's really exciting. I'm very, very interested in that line of work, and it's great after like 12 years in the VR space to be working on something which is a lot more applied and a kind of a lot more real world. Not that there's anything wrong with the projects we've done in the past, but it's good to be in the health space and helping people.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think there's anything wrong in commercializing something. I find it really interesting that we as humans, I love this whole psychology stuff. I find it really interesting as we as humans feel of a majority feel guilty about talking about money and wanting to make it. And it's like, well, isn't that what makes the world go around? We need that currency to keep on doing things that we're doing and eating and so on and so forth. That I find it really interesting. We have this response. Like I've had that response before as well. It's like, yeah, I'm running something and yeah, I'm gonna have to commercialize it to keep it going. It's like, oh no,
Yeah.
It's like that's a dirty word. It's not by any means. And I think we should
survive, haven't you?
Yeah.
And it's about sustainability as well. No project will last if it's purely relying on the goodwill of the people involved. It has to sustain itself, and that often involves commercial angles. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, IoT North, it's I've been funding this for over 3 years now. I've had the great support from Newcastle University over the past year, and I couldn't thank them enough for that. I think it possibly would have burnt out. Purely down to wanting the desire and drive, like I always am, of wanting to expand and grow things, and that they helped fund the marketplace. Nice little plug for me here, but we've developed the IoT North marketplace to help the community promote their use cases. There was actually a comment earlier from Helen Simmons. We need storytellers and visionaries. This is kind of what I'm trying to do with the marketplace, is enable the members to tell a story about the problem that they solve. Not necessarily the how, but the what and the why. As technology companies from validation out there, one of the things I find really interesting is that we talk about technology and we lose customers because they're like, so what? What does it do? What's the value to me? And it's like, no, but it works. It does this, but yeah, what's the return of investment? I'm not sure I see those dots connected. So if we can communicate nice and clearly as use cases and use them as basically a simple story platform, less is more, then we'll get some great engagement. It's really interesting looking at the stats. We've got like 25 use cases on there, and it's really interesting seeing the stats on there of the ones that have much clearer wording on there have got more views. And it must be down to people recommend it to somebody else when they're looking at them as well. So, if you have an IoT use case solution, register for free on the marketplace. We're here to promote you. We promote across our social channels and with our partners. And we're looking to grow and expand that as well with a couple of other things that we're looking to develop over the coming months. We're also open for sponsorship as well. If you'd like to know more, please do get in touch. There's my plug. I'll try not to do any more for the rest of today's session. I try not to do too many. Okay, so in regards to art, Dr. Clark, so in regards to art, and I saw some of the exhibition stuff that you kindly shared the links with me on. What are the impacts that you see on the viewer when they're looking at them? What's the kind of feedback that you're hearing on them?
Well, in my particular area, really what I'm trying to communicate to people is what I call the sense of connectedness. connectedness to me is that sense when you realize you're part of something bigger. You're not just an isolated individual, be it standing in a gallery or whatever, looking at an artwork, but you realize that the artwork you're looking at is part of a network, and that network probably has other viewers looking at artworks at the same time. So for my particular artwork, it's that sense of being connected with the artwork and having that sense that other people are also looking at it. So with my interest in IoT technology, typically what I'm doing is I'm using cameras, sensors, touch devices, a whole range of different technologies to enable somebody to interact with an artwork, but then to have those interactions sent to a network of artworks. So my vision really is to have potentially hundreds of artworks, thousands of artworks around the world. And when you look at it, when you interact with it, you realize that actually other people are doing the same at the same time. So you're sort of communicating, but without necessarily having to speak or use words. So that's what I'm trying to achieve. But of course, every artist will have a different goal or a different purpose behind their work.
Yeah, brilliant.
Cool.
Sean, you know, with the stuff that you do with virtual reality over the years and stuff, and you know, you may not count it as art, but I remember the train one for the exhibition, the Newcastle exhibition and stuff like that. It is kind of an art impression. It's showing you something from the past and stuff like that. What kind of the feedback and response have you got on, from people on those types of projects?
The feedback on you're talking about Stevenson's rocket reimagined, yeah. I mean, the immediate feedback from that as part of the Great Exhibition of the North was really, really positive. We had, obviously, in the Discovery Museum, there was a lot of folk coming in to see the real rocket, which was there for the 10-week period, and then they popped up and come and sat on the virtual version and blasted through the Industrial Revolution in about 3.5 minutes. So yeah, the feedback from that was great. But just on some of the points that Dr. Sean mentioned there. I was having a chat last week with a pal of mine, artist called Felix Copa, and his colleague Johnny X, who's another artist based in Newcastle. It's interesting we're mentioning the Unreal Engine again, but Johnny's been working on putting some of his works into an Unreal Engine scene, and I was asked, just if I'd check it out and have a look at it on his Quest 2. First off, it was really good, really impressive. But we ended up having a chat around, when you've got a classic piece of artwork, like a canvas or a painting or something like that, and then that combined with the likes of AR and AI, as Sean was mentioning, just the idea that when you have a piece of work from any given artist like that in the future, there's the opportunity that that piece of work on your living room wall or wherever you happen to have it, that can become a portal into the mind and the latest works of that artist. So that can get really, really interesting. It just becomes a channel from there on in, and in how far you go down that rabbit hole is obviously up to the artist and what they want to portray. And then that reminded me of a project we did with Creative Fuse a couple of years back, and this fantastic fashion designer called Sally Smallwood, who runs a company called Recreation just up in Stanley in County Durham. Right. They're kind of they sell a lot of their stuff of all places. I think their biggest market is California. And anyway, she as part of the workshop, we were showing various designers and artists what have you involved in the fashion industry. Letting them put a headset on, exposing them to tilt brush, gravity sketch, all those sort of things that artist tools in VR. And Sally I'll never forget, she took the headset off. Said, "This is amazing. This means I can show people the world I see when I design my clothes from inside my head." So she immediately got it. Everything that influenced her, every kind of what you would ordinarily maybe have on a conventional storyboard, and the whole theme of a collection, she could expose anyone to that via like immersive technology. So I think in the next few years, it's just going to be amazing as more and more artists and designers, use these essentially tools. A headset's nothing special until someone does something special in it. Simple as that.
Exactly. I think we've got quite a few questions and quite a bit of discussion going on, which is absolutely fantastic. Thanks for everybody for doing that. Please do remember to subscribe, follow us to get notified of more shows coming. If you have something that you'd like to say on screen, please do get in touch, info@iotnorth.uk, and love to have you on. Okay, so first of all, Dr. Clark, Chris Thompson, thanks, Chris. NFTs are allowing artists to generate money that they couldn't do previously. First of all, would you like to clarify for everybody NFTs?
So NFT, non-fungible token,
Yeah.
I think as somebody has mentioned in the comments, is really a proof of ownership. So it enters the blockchain, purchase it like a cryptocurrency, and it really is like a little contract which says you own the thing associated with it. And really where it's taken off recently is in terms of ownership of digital screen-based artworks, be they videos, sounds, pictures, and so on. So the idea being really that if you want to own a digital work, which is potentially infinitely reproducible, you buy the token, and the token is your proof of ownership. So there might be 1,000 copies of that artwork out there, but if there's only one token, then you're the owner. So it's almost separating, or maybe I was going to say it's separating ownership from the thing, but actually it's giving us the opportunity to own digital things that can be infinitely reproducible. Now, the interesting thing about it is it does have the potential of offering artists digital artists a route to sell their work in new ways. However, like any bubble, it's been heavily hyped because some artworks have sold for millions of pounds, and the first ever tweet has been sold, this, that, and the other. Sometimes people think it's a quick way of making lots of money. But like all these things, the reality is only a few people will make a lot of money, and the majority of people, the idea is, we'll make a bit of money. So if you're a digital artist and you sell a limited edition of a digital artwork, you may sell it for the same sort of money you might be able to sell a print for. But if you're selling those on a regular basis, maybe it's helping to generate income for the artist. I'm interested in NFTs, and I have an NFT project of my own on my website. A few things worry me. One is the environment impact of crypto. It's interesting that Elon Musk has said that he's no longer going to take Bitcoin for Tesla cars because of the environment impact. That is a technical problem. That's a solvable problem if the proof of work shifts away from burning electricity to doing something a bit more productive. I was having a chat yesterday with somebody about the Helium network, and the proof of work in that cryptocurrency is offering a service, and that strikes me as a more sustainable approach. But then the other thing is artists have to know about the technology, have to be able to use it, and not all artists necessarily are familiar with how to create a digital token, but then our audience has to value it. And that's, I think, the real challenge. If I'm going to make part of my living out of selling NFTs, then I really want the same people who would buy my work as a print to be able to and feel comfortable buying it as an NFT.
Interesting. Absolutely brilliant. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the other questions that we've got here as well. Helen Simmons, great stuff. Thanks, Helen. The digital divide is a real issue, and tech like XR normally requires hardware, which can be hard for people to access and afford. How do we mature technology to make it more universally accessible? I'm going to hand that over to Sean Allan first.
Hiya. Thanks for the question, Helen. You should know better than this. Yeah, sorry, and hold on to your hats. It's slightly before 9, but I'm going to use the F word.
No,
Facebook. Not that F word, see? No, I could sense that when she was sweating.
Oh my God, I just had a heart attack.
Yeah, I mean, it's a risk of sounding like a Zuckerberg fanboy. Sorry, but Facebook are very much democratizing the uptake of virtual reality headsets. There really isn't. I mean, yes, there is a greater digital divide when it comes to other stuff, but not in. I'm sorry, but not in VR, not anymore. 4 or 5 years ago, it would cost you around about £2,000 for a system to drive a tethered VR headset, such as the Oculus CV1 or DK5 or something like that. These days, it's a choice. It's like everything else, there's a choice. So Quest 2 will cost you £300. So I'm sorry, but that's a third of the price of your average decent mobile phone. And therein that's the decision an artist or a designer or anyone else, any of the member of the public's got to make. So there isn't a blocker when it comes to this anymore.
Yeah.
I think I add something there in that it's a point that you've made and someone else made earlier, that VR technology is very exciting, and typically the first few experiences that people have is the wow experience. They're looking at, this is amazing. They're seeing something they haven't seen before. But I found that the experiences that keep people engaged tend to be the narrative-based ones, the stories. Yeah. And so storytelling and narrative has always been engaging. From sitting around a campfire telling a story, you can engage people for an hour on end. They can be listening to your every word. And I think the same applies to a technology like VR, which to me is a narrative storytelling technology. Mm-hmm. And that if you have great stories and you tell them using the technology, people do become engaged in an ongoing way. So bringing the storytellers into VR is part of that, helping to engage people and democratize it, if you like. More people who get engaged, interested in technology because it's telling great stories, the more people hopefully will be creating content themselves.
Yeah, very much. I'm being notified by people in the comments, and thanks for notifying. I totally haven't been looking at the clock, and we've totally overrun. It's now 9 a.m. and the great thing is people are telling me that they're having to leave. So thanks Kevin, thanks Dr. David Cliff, great guy that we had on a couple of weeks ago, and we've got on in a couple of weeks' time. We've got a really exciting chat in a couple of weeks with a professional boxer about mental health, how you prepare for a fight, and how you deal with losing and coming back. And let's have a look quickly. Helen Simmons, I agree. The storytellers are the artists. That's why the interconnection between tech and art is so important. I think that's the perfect statement to end this session. Everybody, thank you so much for the engagement. It's been absolutely brilliant. To Sean's, hey, we've got to do this again. I've really enjoyed this one. It's been absolutely fantastic. And on that note, I shall say goodbye, and we'll wrap things up. Thanks now. Goodbye.